Before we jump into this episode, let's rewind to June 2022 when I found this empty ditch to start building a DIY skate park in. The biggest challenge I face is there's no banks to build upon, and getting supplies to this ditch has proven to be extremely difficult. I've taken breaks to avoid getting burnt out on this project, but recently I've been inspired to keep the mission of building going. 3 years seems like a long time to build, but keep in mind, I've done all this by myself. There's been months at a time where flooding has made it impossible to skate or build anything here. Now I'm at a point where I have over 8 obstacles and it's really starting to become fun to skate. That said, let's jump into episode 10 of building a DIY skate park. It's officially called the Lizard DIY. Check out this tag that someone recently did. I came down here and saw it. I have a good idea who did it. It didn't have a name for a long time. Some homies were calling it like Dowdy Side or Dowdy DIY, but I don't like that. I like Lizard DIY. I think that's cool. Every time you come down here, it's like lizards and critters are running all over the place. A lot of times lizards actually hide under the ramps, like underneath them. So I don't know, I just feel like the Lizard DIY is pretty cool. Yesterday I came down here, did a little patchwork, did a little cleanup day. I took all the trash out. Also, the other thing that I did is actually pulled all of our forms and I patched everything up. And I'll show you what I did right now before we get into a little session that we're about to get into. First, I'll show you the results. I basically just like put an end to where normally there was like kind of all these little honeycombs and the concrete was like more exposed, so it's like more fragile. That's my tag right there. Pick up your trash. On this side, just hit the sides a little bit. Same thing here. Didn't really crack. So yeah, that's the result of it. I'll show you how I did that right now. Since there's some people skating the spot when I came down to build today, it's going to be hard to hear me, so I'm going to be doing some voiceover of this section of the video. I started with unscrewing all the forms from our last episode of building the bank to ledge with angle iron. Then I slowly pulled off the forms to try and avoid any concrete from breaking off. This is a very satisfying feeling. Seeing all the concrete bonded together is pretty nice. Once I removed the forms from the bank, I cleaned up all the extra concrete bags I've left down here to avoid building up tons of trash. I left the wood forms from our Wallride build, and since I'm going to be patching up the bank sides, I figured this would be a good time to do the same thing for the Wallrides to avoid any of the edges from chipping off as well. I'm going to be using the Type S concrete left over from our previous build to patch the sides of our transitions and bank today. I'm also utilizing the plastic bin that somebody had previously left in the ditch as our mixing tub. After I got a very nice consistency of concrete that's not too wet, I started using my metal trowel to cover all the honeycombs, making it so they're less likely to chip, like I said. Unfortunately, I didn't bring any of my concrete bonding adhesive down to the ditch this day, so some concrete was sliding off, but that's bound to happen. Once I covered everything that I wanted to in concrete, I started to take out all the forms to make the spot a little less messy and just more clean, because it's a matter of time before the city comes down and paints over all the tags. So I just don't want there to be any building supplies to make them more motivated to potentially take out the spot. Yeah, someone's like tagging over this piece that they did, which is pretty lame because this piece is really good. Some of my favorite ones are the colors, but I don't know, some people hitting it on top of it. That's disrespectful. I love this little guy down here too. It is a hot one today, so that's gonna be a quick little session for now. I want to get into building the next obstacle, which I believe what I want to do is a ledge, and then I want to build some more wall rides and cord pipes over here just to keep the flow going. Once we have enough flow in here where you can go back and forth, that's when I'm gonna start introducing some more stuff. My buddy Matt, who I was just with, also mentioned like maybe putting a curb down here that you can move from the side and then put into the middle while you're skating it. But I don't want to build anything in the middle. A lot of people have mentioned that, like building a snake in the middle or a bump or anything like that, because I think that's what's going to discourage the city. They're going to see that as more of an obstruction to the ditch, where if I'm building on the walls, as you've seen in the previous episodes, I made sure that everything is draining so there's no obstruction to flooding, etc. So that's why I don't build in the middle. But the thing I want to do is start building the next obstacle. I'm ready for more. I'm just getting really excited that the spot is starting to become something that's like having flow. People are down here enjoying it, skating, doing their thing, and yeah, it's exactly what I want. It is 95 degrees today, so I'm gonna keep it short and simple. Basically, I just wanna get our ledge down, our angle iron down, and then I do wanna start on the other obstacle, really basic stuff today. Try to stay down here for like an hour at the most. I just got all of our center blocks down here, got the angle iron down here, the caulking, my glove, everything like that. So In the last episode, we did build a bank to ledge, which is really similar to what we're gonna do now, but there's some subtle differences that are gonna make a big change, essentially, because like the formation of where we set up our cinder blocks is gonna be a lot different. Also, I am gonna add concrete eventually into it, and I'll show you why in a second. Like I was saying when we got the supplies, there's gonna be some gaps. However, I'm gonna fill those gaps. But first things first, I'm gonna clean up the area where we want all of our cinder blocks to go, because we want a nice clean surface from cinder block to the concrete, make sure nothing gets in the way, and then we'll start laying everything down. I'm excited, and the thing I thought about too is, like, as you can see back here, there's all of our obstacles, and we're at this point with this spot where I really do want to start thinking about the flow of everything. So I want to hit this ledge and then be able to push like one time before I hit the next obstacle, or maybe not push at all. Like, the idea is just to make sure that like everything works with each other. So I have an idea where I'm going to do it, so let's just start with cleaning it up. Now that we're in September, like it's like September 10th right now, we're getting more shade in here, which is really nice. Like in the summer, it's just like full blast sun. So we got a lot of shade right now. I'm gonna try to take advantage of that today. So point is, I'm actually gonna work on the side with the shade versus the sun. Not only because I think that's where I want the flow to be, but also just because it's gonna be less brutal. The shade difference between the sun is extreme right now. I also forgot my tripod today because I was just coming down here really quick to get this thing done, and yeah, so I'm gonna have to leave my camera on the ground, unfortunately. It's on one of the cinder blocks. Sorry that the angle sucks. Now I have a good idea where it's gonna go right now. I do wanna create some space in between the wall and the ledge, like always, just for flooding and things like that. Also, it doesn't look like it's the smoothest ground, but I don't think that will mess with us as much because we're gonna have gaps in the cinder block, so that'll actually work to our advantage. But first thing is first, I'm going to do a little kind of dry sit to make sure everything is somewhat level. That way, you know, we want to make sure the angle iron sits on the ledge nice and smooth. The nice part about this too is like it's just one piece, so there will be no connecting joints, less snagability essentially. I almost thought about just doing one cinder block high. That's too low. Kind of want to be able to board slide it. So I think do want even space in between each cinder block somewhat. It doesn't have to be perfect, but like I'm not gonna measure it, but kind of eyeballing it. It's like 3 inches. All right, so this is as level as we're gonna get. And what I mean by level is like the ground is really uneven in here. It's a little swervy, and I don't know if you can really tell. It's probably hard. Like maybe if I go like this, you kind of see like there's a lot of ups and down grooves. So essentially what I want is our angle iron to be right on here nice. This is the best space that I found that's like in the zone that I want. Like there's not too many gaps. There's little gaps, but the caulking will fill it. So now I'm just gonna kind of line up the cinder blocks. Obviously we're not gonna leave that big gap. Can start opening this caulking and start gluing everything down. But yeah, this ground right here is just not, it's so bumpy. It's gonna work against us, and I don't wanna have to like smooth out the ground. That would be a little ridiculous. Obviously we could add some caulking underneath each one too, but I think that'll be fine. Again, this is a short ledge, so it's not gonna really matter. Just make a quick little dinker. All right, I'm sweating balls already. Just make it easy on ourselves. We're just gonna move these over. Actually, just thought of a good idea how to level the angle iron. I'm actually gonna put that on there when we do our concrete. So right now, let's just do a dry sit. I'll show you what I mean in a little bit. But first things first, let's just get these cinder blocks down on the ground. All right, one down. Straight with the other one. So basically, since they're not all touching each other, I gotta make sure the angle iron is on there nice and good every time. Make sure the cinder block's not out too far. Because this liquid nails aren't super strong, it's kind of working to my advantage. I'll move things around if I need to. Solid. Now I'm just gonna add our top cinder blocks on top of that. Make it one bit higher. I mean, you could skate it this low. It's a little too low for me, in my opinion. actually only took one thing of liquid nails, but I am going to add some more to the sides here in a second. That's the angle iron. See how it fits. Hopefully everything's good. Should be. Yep. Pretty good. A little tiny gap, but like I said, I have a solution for that here in a little bit. Yeah, so that was really basic, simple formation. As I've said before, it's literally just caulking down cinder blocks, making sure everything is level. That's the most important part. What I am gonna do is actually fill all of this with concrete and filler. I'm gonna box it up so it just like is nice and smooth. And then I'm gonna put the angle iron on top. So I'm actually not gonna apply that right now because it's so hot. I'm gonna move on to what I'll show you what I'm gonna do with these two cinder blocks really quick. And then we'll come back and finish this ledge in the next session. Actually, I take it back. I'm gonna add some more caulking since I have it, just to make sure everything's nice and solid. We are gonna add concrete, so it doesn't really matter, but also I just don't want anybody to like mess with it while I'm gone. Just make sure that this thing's sitting on the floor nice. A little bead down at the bottom. Super simple caulking. Kind of like what you do at your house. Fixing up a cinder block wall. I might glove along it just to kind of make sure it's sticking in there. I'm going to use one more bottle. Stick it, poke it. It's getting to 100 now. So I was recently in Portland and they had this really cool spot called the Interstate DIY. I made a whole video about it. And one thing they had that was really cool was this like quarter pipe that went up to a wall ride. So that's what I'm actually gonna work on. I was inspired by it. So essentially we have our wall rides here, channel wall rides we made in the last episode. What I think I wanna do is actually build a quarter pipe out. And I'm hoping, just by chance, that 2 cinder blocks will fit here. I'll have to get 2 more. I didn't get enough cinder blocks. But then we'll have a little quarter pipe that launches you up to the wall ride. That's the goal. So it's gonna be I'll be the next obstacle. We can kind of build these simultaneously. I think once I get to mixing concrete, I'll build the transitions, and then I'll also fill our ledge. And this wasn't planned. So if this does fit, it was just meant to be. Let me just say that. I do need to sweep this ground ever so slightly. I think, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to knock some of this side filler off, but I think this is gonna work really nicely actually. I'm excited. Oh, it's perfect. That is perfect. So I am gonna glue these down. I wanna do them flat, but because there's so much stuff on the ground, it's gonna be easier to do them this way, and then the cinder blocks on top will be flat. I'm getting a little too ahead of myself, but essentially I'm gonna caulk these down right here, since we have them. Not perfect, but it doesn't need to be. It's just gonna be our little wall to build our transitions onto. So essentially, same kind of thing, just using my glove to get all this caulking down. Because I have the extra caulking, might as well fill these little voids. I normally don't like leaving things unfinished like this, like halfway down these cinder blocks, but it's just so hot right now. Building in 100-degree weather just isn't really realistic. But I can't skate in this weather either, so time to go do some house duties. So before we go finish this ledge, I actually got some more supplies. I'm picking up 4 more cinder blocks right now. 1 bag of Quikrete mortar mix, which we'll use for the top finishing coat. I'll show you in a little bit. Got 3 sets of fastening, concrete, Quikrete, and another bucket because my bucket is destroyed. And that'll be just to pour our supplies in essentially. So let's get back to the spot. Unfortunately, I haven't had any opportunity to come down here and finish this ledge spot, so it actually has been like 2 weeks since I put these cinder blocks down. I normally don't like my projects that I'm working on, the obstacles, to sit that long in between building them, but life happens, things happen, you get busy as you're in your mid-30s like I am. And so yeah, I got enough excuses on my way. Today what I'm gonna do is finish this bad boy up. First thing is first, I'm actually gonna fill these cinder blocks with some dirt and some debris, some rocks and stuff from our other filler, other obstacles, and then I'll start filling the sides with the concrete, and then I'm gonna go over the top with the mortar and put the angle iron on there. I will do some dry packing too. What I mean by dry packing, what that's gonna mean is I'm basically just gonna put the concrete right on the top of here and then mix the water in there, not on the sides, because I'll show you why I want to mix the sides, but basically it just makes it a little bit easier so I don't have to mix as much concrete, and it'll still create that bond and that hardness and the filler that I really want. So essentially I have all this filler down here that is no longer serving any purpose. The way that I built this as rebar in there, that one actually might be too big. I don't want to pull that one out. I can leave some of it, but you know, pull some of these smaller filler items. That way we don't have to use as much concrete, essentially. I do want to make this longer eventually, so I'm not going to take too much from this. Instead, I can use all this. Don't really want to use a pine cone because it's just not solid. I mean, it's not a big deal if you do, but you want to use like dirt and rock. Don't really want to use too much trash. We just want to leave like 5 inches or so on the top of these cinder blocks to fill with concrete. The whole idea with like adding more filler here versus just making this all concrete is A, because it'll cost us less than just reusing the stuff that's already down here. The filler from our previous builds and dirt. And then B, be less effort. You don't have to mix as much concrete. Save us money, time, and effort. Essentially is the idea. Like, you can fill all of this with concrete. Probably would be stronger. But because I'm going to be doing concrete in between everything and on top, a little dry pack, should be good, which I think we're almost there, honestly. Like, pretty much this last one right here, I feel like we can start adding our Quikrete to the top. Just throwing water right on top of it. As you can see, basically, there's a little room on top of each one. Like, there's filler in there, but I got at least, you know, 4 to 5 inches above each one. So now basically I'm going to open up our Quikrete bag and just set the concrete right in there and then add water on top of that. Let it sit, stir it around a little bit. It'll start to shrink, so once you add water to the concrete, it starts locking down. It starts getting more compressed, so we are going to want to like aggregate it eventually once we start filling the sides, but let's just get right into it. Whew, I want to try to make this a short build today because I don't have too much time. Another 2 hours left, which I think is plenty to finish this today. So hopefully I don't even have to use a whole bag, this top area. I want to just use like half a bag, ideally. Otherwise we might not have enough concrete today. Now basically, I'm just going to put the water right on top of where we set everything in, just kind of pack it, move it around. Super simple. Just going to kind of keep moving it, let that concrete sit, let the water kind of get in between the rocks. Here, see how like once the water kind of goes down, starts to push the concrete down a little, which is what we want. It's basically seeping in between all the concrete, getting it nice and wet, so it slowly starts curing, hardening. I think the most important thing is just that you don't have anything going above the seams, because we want a nice smooth finish for the mortar. So try to make sure that it's not getting above our cinder blocks. That's the most important part, making sure that it all kind of stays inside of the cinder blocks, essentially. Because this stuff is fast setting, it'll be nice. Once there's water sitting on the top, you know that there's more than enough, especially after you've done a couple coats of water and it's still coming to the top. The idea is just hardens inside of there, so now what I need to do is show you how I'm going to sort of fill these little voids. And you could just put the angler in on top of there, then you'd have gaps on the top, which would be really, really sketchy. So I'll show you why I brought that scrap wood. My idea, and I've never done this before, so it's going to be trial and error. But my idea is I can kind of just go like this and fill the area with Quikrete. Obviously, if these are just floating, they'll just fall over because Quikrete does expand and gets, as it's curing, it expands. So we got these cinder blocks. Kind of hold it down, make sure nothing's in the way down here. Want them sitting nice and flush. And I'm actually going to mix this concrete versus just sitting it in there, because I want it to be nice and smooth. I think the biggest disadvantage of doing it this way that I'm doing it is that I don't have forms along the whole edge. Could have got more wood and done that. I do have some wood downstream, but I don't have enough cinder blocks to hold the wood up, nor do I have all the supplies. So like a lot of times when I'm building DIY, things could be a lot easier if I had more tools and the right supplies, more money, more budget. You can always donate down below, super thanks, or you can join channel members to support this project, then I can get more tools and stuff. But I'm working with my budget and the time and money that I have. So with that said, I'm just gonna have to do each one, kind of aggravate it, get it to the point where it's hard. Because I got the fast setting, I don't think it would be too bad. But the other thing that I have to consider is like not mixing too much concrete, because it dries really hard. So I'm better off not mixing enough than mixing too much. The point that I'm getting at is like I have to do this area, and then I have to do 2 more areas because we have 3 of these areas I gotta fill. So let's try and air this bad boy. Basically, I'm gonna mix in my bucket, get it nice and wet, start filling that area. Then I'm gonna bang against the sides with my hammer just to try to get that smooth edge, and then I'll pull it. I'll pull the forms eventually, and then what I'll do is I'll trowel it with my magnesium float, get that nice smooth side. There's our first little batch. Like I said, I'd rather do a little less right now than too much. I'm just dropping in there. Because this stuff dries so quick though, I think it'll work to our advantage, since I'm gonna have to pull the forms. I want it to keep its shape. That's the scariest part. Start adding some more in there. I don't have to worry too much about getting it in there perfect right away, because I'm moving in with my trowel in a second. I might have mixed the perfect batch right there. Perfect amount. Maybe too much. We'll see. Maybe too much. That's alright. Rather there be a nice top finish than be lumpy. Might be able to just kind of fill it in this area, even though we don't have our forms there, just a little bit. Make this the concrete. Yeah, I'll be able to smooth it out eventually with some more mortar, but I don't want to have to do it too much. The question is going to be, do I start tapping these sides? I think I can do it. Aggravate it.
ever so slightly. The reason for that is it kind of gets all the concrete down there too. Keep it from falling.
So as that dries, I came over to grab my angle iron. I hit it like really good under a bush where I'm at right now, but like deep down under, someone took it. Such a bummer because angle iron is expensive. It's like all my forms and stuff are still here, like my other supplies that I keep over here. I try not to keep my supplies here, but it's just hard sometimes, like to bring everything in and then out. A little disappointed right now. I'm so bummed because I wanted to finish this ledge today. I don't know, it just sucks. Like constantly spending money and then people take the things. I mean, who knows? It's angle iron, it's worth money, it's metal. If I'm being completely honest, part of me just wants to give up right now. It's just so frustrating. Like, I really want to do this today. I have the time, a little bit of time. Time's crunching now. I'm sitting here complaining. I don't know. Part of me thinks like whoever took the angle iron like needed it more than I did, needed it more than a skate spot, needed some extra change. I don't know. Trying to think of a positive spin on it, but it's just a bummer. So I'm gonna try to finish the quick work. That's the least I can do today, and then just learn from my lesson. Don't bring anything more valuable than like $4 and leave it. So it is what it is. I don't know. I'm trying to laugh it off. I mean, at the minimum, I can at least get this ledge solid today. So then the next session, I could buy more angle iron, bring it down here, and build it. I'm kind of scared to pull this off right now. It's probably too soon, but because of the mood I'm in, I don't care. I'm just gonna go for it and like start troweling it. Hopefully it sticks together. Oh yeah, I think we're money. You can see where that first and second batch met up. That could also be just where it didn't aggregate it enough. Just gonna leave it from there, pull the other side, and keep moving on. Should have got this wet, but first time, less sticky. Nice. That side looks pretty good too. Alright, since I'm just being a little impatient today because I'm still annoyed about the angle iron, I'll be over in like, give me 10 more minutes. But I'm just gonna keep moving right along. I think because this stuff's setting so fast, it should be good. In the worst case, I have to just put it back, trowel it. Just don't want it to stick. A little sticky. I think that's good. Keep troweling that.
concrete in my face. All right, well, final gap filled. Kind of come to terms that I'm not going to finish this today because I don't have time to go get the angle iron. I've been working a little bit slower than I probably need to because I knew I didn't have that much more time as far as like brushing through to get the angle iron on the mortar on. So tomorrow I will get angle iron, but let's get this last little filler off. And this technique actually worked pretty good. I've never done this before. Like I said, just kind of filling it with concrete. I think the quick, fast setting concrete really worked great for this. You know, in the perfect situation, I would have had this all formed off with wood, done it. Wouldn't even need cinder blocks really. So there's so many different ways to do this stuff. We'll try to emphasize that. Spray bottle is kind of helping me blend these edges in. So let's see, is it too premature? It's pretty early. That's all right, not bad. And the reason I was banging it with a hammer, like I said, just to kind of get all that concrete around, smoother edge than it would be if I didn't do that. This would be kind of like more exposed rocks essentially, so it kind of helps. So as you see, as I went on, like the third one, the last one I just did is the best one of all of them. Just goes to show you, like, a lot of this stuff is just trial and error, you know? The first one's not gonna be great. The first patch back there wasn't great. This last one's like pretty damn near perfect. Might have been even better if I did oil on the forms and, you know, went all out, but it's another thing I would have to bring down here. I just want this to stay solid for the support of our ledge, essentially. Yeah, here we go. This back one, start cleaning up, come back and finish this bad boy. Started to accept it. It is what it is. I don't want to sound too negative. It's just, you know, you put your money and time into things. It sucks sometimes. They don't go your way, but that's life. Gotta roll with the punches, baby. Nice. Now, if this wood gets taken, I'm not mad about it. Definitely gonna clean up all my tools and everything like that. I am gonna leave these cinder blocks. We'll finish that next obstacle in the next couple days. The reason that I made this ledge this long is because the angle iron that we got was this long. It was like the perfect size, and that's why we ended up doing these gaps and this whole ordeal. If I hadn't had that angle iron, I would have done this differently. So that, I think that's like part of why I was so annoyed, just because like all this extra work and the way that I creatively, I guess I would say, went about this was because of the length of the angle iron. So it is what it is. I could find that same length, six feet, but yeah, that's why we did it this way. Had we not had the angle iron, I would have done it all differently. I should learn my lesson and not get too risky and just put these down really quick. Same thing as previously. Gotta use our caulking gun. Get this bad boy open.
Alright, here we are the next day. Gotta pick up some more angle iron. Hopefully they have the one that I need, which I believe, see, these are 4 feet. I want that 6 foot one. Alright, well, I found it. It looks like it's gonna be a solid 30 bucks. So 60 bucks on angle iron alone on this project. It's kind of, it is what it is. I'm trying not to beat myself up too much because it's gonna be fun. At the end of the day, like, I could be spending this money on food that goes away. Not that you shouldn't eat, you need to eat, but the point is, like, I will reap the benefits of these rewards. Gotta put some money down. Got some sponge as well, and yeah, I just gotta move on from the angle iron getting taken or lost, whatever it is. I'm trying to act like it's my fault so I don't have to feel bad about anybody else doing something, sacrificing me. That even makes sense. What I'm saying is, like I said earlier in the video, like, somebody probably needed it more than I do, so let's check out, get back to the spot. So, as I've mentioned in the previous episodes, bringing supplies down here is no easy feat.
So today I actually just have my water jug and my bucket with everything in there. So I'm actually gonna be mixing all of our mortar mix in this bucket. Got the sponge, I got some concrete bonding adhesive, will basically allow us to kind of bond our mortar to the concrete we did yesterday a lot better. It'll stick a little better. Got my jigsaw in case I want to get to my other project today. And we got the rest of our caulking adhesive, because why not use it? Point is, I didn't bring down all the stuff I would have liked to bring down because I also only have 2 hours of sunlight right now. Maybe 2.5, maybe 3 if I'm really pushing it. And so yeah, first thing is first, I'm just gonna start mixing this mortar and get this angle iron on there. See how it fits right now. I definitely could have gotten the cheaper route, like gotten skinnier angle iron. I mean, it's not as thick, but I want to be able to kind of like jam into it. I also like the nice and heavy duty one. Looks good. So it's not super level, as we know. It's not bad, but the whole point is doing it this way is I'm gonna get the mortar on there and then put it down so that everything is level. So I kind of see right now, mainly it just needs more concrete on each end that we're gonna sit in there. As long as it's flush right here, and then we'll butt up some mortar. And then I will use some caulking on it, just as I have it. Put some extra caulking on there. And yeah, let's just get to it instead of talking about doing it. Let's start doing it. I'm super stoked that the weather has finally started to cool down, which is nice. Makes these building sessions a lot easier. The other thing that I didn't bring intentionally is a shovel. Which has been another thing I would have to carry down here. So I'm actually gonna break open our concrete. Just my square trowel mix. And then I'm just gonna dump it right in. Mix everything right here in this bucket. This is the mortar mix. So there's tiny little rocks in here, but for the most part, it's just straight mortar. The whole idea here is just to kind of get that angle iron so it's nice and level. The ledge is level. There's no teetering. That way it just sticks on there longer. The reason I don't mix Quikrete in the bucket is because you got the rocks in there and things start locking up really fast. It's a lot harder. Or with the mortar, since it's almost like a type S where it's really thin, it's much easier to work with. Doing like a patchwork job, you know, like you're patching a, I don't know, angle iron just onto an existing ledge. You don't need to bring all a mixing bucket. Tons of other ways to mix too. Obviously mixing a tarp, as I've done in the past, all sorts of different ways. I do want to put some of our concrete bonding adhesive in here too, so I might need to add a little more mortar. It's already pretty wet. This will just help it stick a little better. I'm gonna try to kind of fill this first gap that we have from yesterday's village. I want to get some of these loose ends off here too, because I want this just to be the mortar at this point. Could use these wood from yesterday, just kind of bring it to the edge too, so it doesn't fall off. Not a big deal if it does, but if you can prevent it, why not? Just kind of level everything out, see where we're at with it. Again, if you had forms, it's probably a little cleaner job, like if I had formed it all up better, meaning the concrete wouldn't fall, but I'm not too worried about it. It's DIY, baby. Let's not do it perfect, just do it yourself. Keep this level, see if I can see where it's high and low. Pretty good. So what I can do, add the caulking on there and I could start stuffing it. I see it's a little lower on this end bit over here. Not by much though. And if anything, because it's weighted, it'll push it all down. So I'm not worried too much about having like too much concrete in one area. Kind of weight it down and it'll sort of balance it all out. Have the caulking, why not? Adding it to the side piece right here, not to the top. Because I do want that side to be sticking. Shimmy it. Get everything down. Nice. I'm gonna put a little more on this end piece over here, but I think that's pretty good, honestly. So I will get out the sponge and start mixing some more mortar to get this whole top area nice and flat, but it feels very, very well like placed, like it feels solid. Stoked. Just get this bad boy wet, kind of slurp some of this off there. Keep the angle iron nice and clean so we don't have to deal with it later. So now I'm gonna mix some more mortar and just kind of get this top area nice and level. That's the idea. I don't want to mix too much in this bucket at once, because that is when I'll start getting heavy. So even though it might not be enough to get the whole thing, I think any more than that is just going to get hard to mix in there. So I'm just going to start adding our water right there. I'm going to use this board to kind of push it up against it. Again, these loose ends off there. Fill these little voids. Might get some of the concrete on the angle iron, but I'll just keep swiping it off with our little sponge. The idea here is just gonna make it nice for like lip slides, blunt slides, things like that. So I am going to skim the edge of our angle iron down here. I'm going to skim up to it. So if we do want to wally into it or anything like that, there's less grab and snag. Because I have it, I might as well. Take the sticker off. Should have done that a long time ago. Definitely not the right trowel for this, but it's whatever. I'm not too worried about all that extra falling off. We can come back along with my sponge, clean it up. Also, all this falling down, I'll use it for filler later on. Yeah, this trowel might be done. I just feel like it has a lot of edge to it. It's not getting that smooth finish that I really like. That's all right. I've had it for a long time. I've had this trowel probably for, honestly, like 5 years or something. Now I'm gonna have to learn how to skate ledges. feel like it's looking pretty good now. I mean, I don't want to do too much more, but I want to see, even with this trowel, if I can get a little bit of a smoother finish up here. So now that it had some time to sit. Below is the finished ledge. Well, not so finished. It's still curing. It's got to dry before we skate it. I'll probably give it another like 2 days just to be nice and secure and locked and loaded in there, because I want this thing to last after all the money and time we put into it. So I'm actually really hyped about it. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's all about like going from nothing to something, and here it is. At the end of the day, it's like you have your trials and tribulations. There's good and hard parts about this project, which is a really easy thing. Like, most people could have done this in 1 day. I just went about it in a really difficult way. You don't have to use concrete. You could just use cinder blocks and caulking and just like put the angle iron right on there and cut it off. I wanted it a certain way, and after all the trials and tribulations, I'm actually really hyped with it. We're gonna move on to the next obstacle, but for now I'm just gonna clean up shop, kind of stick around for a little bit, make sure nobody messes with it, and then go get some dinner.